Did you know that many boxers have tragically lost their lives due to injuries sustained in the ring? From fighters collapsing after victorious matches to boxers suffering fatal brain trauma mid-fight, here are 20 boxers who died in freaking accidents. 1. Jimmy Doyle. Jimmy Doyle was only 22 when he got into the ring for the biggest fight of his career. In 1947, he took on the legendary Sugar Ray Robinson in a bid for the World Welterweight Championship. The battle was fierce, and Robinson demonstrated why he is widely regarded as one of the all-time great boxers. During the 8th round, Robinson landed a killer punch that sent Doyle to the canvas unconscious. He never woke up. Doyle was taken to St. Vincent's Charity Hospital, but unfortunately, he succumbed to his injuries. This tragedy became even more frightening when people said that Sugar Ray Robinson had a dream before the fight. It was a nightmare. He had dreamed that he took the life of Jimmy Doyle inside the ring. The dream so frightened him that he did not want to fight. He went so far as to try and call off the bout. But his clergyman and priest persuaded him that the dream was a mere illusion and that he would be safe. Robinson believed them and proceeded to fight. And the worst happened. Once Doyle passed away, some blamed Robinson, claiming that he was the cause of his opponent's demise. There were lawsuits, but ultimately, Robinson was absolved of blame. The bout nonetheless revolutionized boxing. Referees were provided with stricter regulations to end bouts earlier to prevent injuries. Sugar Ray Robinson was shaken to the core by Doyle's demise, but he kept boxing, becoming one of the greatest fighters in history. 2. Kim Duk-koo. Kim Duk-koo was a bold South Korean boxer who climbed into the ring for one of the most savage battles in the history of boxing. In 1982, he fought against Ray Boom Boom Mancini at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. The bout was savage, and both men were giving their all. By the 14th round, Mancini struck a vicious blow that knocked out Duk-koo. Unfortunately, the injury was too extensive. He incurred serious head injuries and never regained consciousness. 4 days after that, he passed away in the hospital. His fatal demise rocked the boxing community and brought big changes to the sport. Championship bouts prior to this bout were held for 15 rounds, but following Duk-koo's demise, officials truncated them to 12 rounds in order to safeguard fighters from sustaining excessive damage. Tougher regulations were also implemented, requiring referees to intervene earlier when a boxer is in trouble. Although his life was prematurely ended, Kim Duk-koo's boxing shall never be forgotten. His bout was the most grueling battle the sport had ever witnessed, but his demise made the sport realize it had to consider the safety of fighters seriously. 3. Frankie Campbell. Frankie Campbell was an Italian-American boxer who was famous for his boxing abilities and grit within the ring. In 1930, he challenged Max Baer, a future heavyweight title winner, in a highly publicized bout. Campbell knocked Baer down early in the fight, but the referee called it a slip. Believing the bout had stopped, Campbell turned and walked towards the ropes. That was when Baer delivered a crushing blow to the left side of Campbell's head. Campbell kept on fighting despite the agony. He even informed his corner, "Something feels like it broke in my head." Still, the battle did not end. By the 5th round, Baer pummeled him with incessant punches. It was too late when the referee intervened. Campbell was taken to the hospital, but his wounds were too grievous. He succumbed a few hours later to a double cerebral hemorrhage, a hemorrhage in the brain. The incident shocked the world of boxing. Baer was charged with manslaughter, with bail being $10,000, but the case was later dismissed. The referee of the fight and both sets of cornermen were, however, suspended for 1 year for failing to halt the bout earlier. 4. Davey Moore. Davey Moore was arguably the most thrilling featherweight boxer of his day. People admired him for his ability, intensity, and integrity. But in 1963, his life and career came to a heartbreaking freak conclusion in a fight against Sugar Ramos. The fight was fierce, with both competitors giving it their all. In the 10th round, Ramos threw a solid punch, sending Moore to the ground. When he hit the ground, his head snapped back against the bottom rope, something that would ultimately kill him. Miraculously, despite the brutal fall, Moore managed to get up and carry on. But by the 11th round, the fight was halted, with Ramos emerging as the victor. Initially, Moore was okay. He even addressed reporters following the bout, displaying no sign of distress. But as soon as he arrived at the dressing room, the situation changed. He suddenly fell into a coma and failed to recover. The demise of Moore left the world of boxing stunned, with fans devastated. Moore was interred in his hometown of Springfield, Ohio, where 10,000 individuals gathered to bid him farewell. 5. Choi Yo-sam. Choi Yo-sam was South Korea's best and most renowned boxer. He was a leading player in Asia and a sensation at the flyweight level. The fans respected him for his skills and his unwavering dedication, earning him a spot as one of the greatest boxers of all time. In 2007, Choi battled Harry Amol for the WBO Intercontinental Flyweight title. It was a close fight, but Choi gave his all. After 12 grueling rounds, he was proclaimed the winner by unanimous decision. It ought to have been a celebratory moment, but disaster befell him instead. As soon as the battle had finished, Choi unexpectedly collapsed in the ring. His crew ran to his side and had him rushed to the hospital to undergo emergency brain surgery. Fans everywhere wished for his recovery, but unfortunately, he passed away a few days later from his injuries. Choi's story is so heartbreaking is that he passed away as a champion. He won the fight, but paid the ultimate price. His passing away was a huge loss for boxing, especially in South Korea, where he was a beloved national hero. 6. Young Ali. Boxing is a game of skill, power, and will, but tragedy can at times overrule even the greatest of wins. This was true in 1982 when Irish boxer Barry McGuigan met young Ali in London. Young Ali, whose actual name was Assimi Mustafa, was a hard-fighting Nigerian brawler, famous for his durability. The fight was fierce, but in the 6th round, McGuigan knocked Ali out. It was a big victory for McGuigan, but the moment became depressing soon. Ali was stretchered out of the ring and taken to the hospital after going into a coma. Physicians put him on life support, but unfortunately, Ali never regained consciousness. He subsequently passed away at home, leaving his pregnant wife behind. His demise was devastating, not only to his family and supporters, but also to McGuigan himself. The Irish champion subsequently revealed that this tragedy tormented him for years. 3 years later, in 1985, McGuigan defeated Eusebio Pedrosa to win the World Featherweight Championship. It was the highlight of his career, but he didn't forget the fallen fighter. In a sentimental gesture, he dedicated his win to young Ali, paying tribute to the memory of the fighter. 7. Maxim Dadashev. Boxing is a sport of immense courage, and Maxim Dadashev was among the most resilient boxers in the ring. The Russian light welterweight was a budding star, renowned for his talent, grit, and determination. But in July 2019, his promising career was cut short after a gruesome bout against Subriel Matias in an IBF-sanctioned bout. Dadashev left everything he had in the bout, never surrendering even after being hit with several damaging punches. His corner by the final rounds noticed the beating he was enduring and pleaded with him to stop fighting. They understood that he was injured, but his fighting spirit would not allow him to surrender. His trainer, Buddy McGirt, eventually made the sad decision to throw in the towel after the 11th round, stopping the fight to save his boxer. But the harm was already done. Dadashev could not even make it back to the dressing room. He fell and was rushed straight to the hospital. Doctors did emergency brain surgery, but his injuries were too severe. Only a few days later, at just 26 years old, he passed away. 8. Patrick Day. Patrick Day was a highly skilled and highly regarded boxer with a very promising future. Born in 1992, he gained a reputation as a super welterweight boxer for his speed, ability, and sportsmanship. However, on October 12, 2019, his promising career ended in a devastating way in a bout against Charles Conwell. The fight was fierce from the beginning as Conwell landed solid shots. Day proved to be resilient, but he was knocked down 3 times. He was so dazed at one point that he turned the wrong way, attempting to fight an invisible man. It was obvious that something was fundamentally wrong. The referee instantly stopped the bout, and Day was taken to the hospital. Unfortunately, his injuries were too serious. He had multiple seizures, became comatose, and passed away 4 days later. He was 27 years old. Promoter Eddie Hearn expressed outrage that more needs to be done to prevent fighters from suffering such tragedy. 9. Boris Stanchov. Boris Stanchov's tale is one of the saddest and most odd in the history of boxing. He was not even fighting under his own name like the rest of them. Stanchov, the Bulgarian fighter, had been fighting using his cousin's name and medical history to get into pro bouts. His cousin, Isus Velichkov, actually possessed a valid professional boxing license. But for some unknown reason, Stanchov fought under his cousin's name for more than a year. On the 21st of September 2019, Stanchov entered the ring to fight Ardit Murya. In the course of the battle, he collapsed suddenly with symptoms of a serious cardiac arrest. Medics rushed into the ring to try and revive him, but efforts were in vain as he was later confirmed lifeless at the hospital. The reality of his phony identity emerged after his demise, surprising both officials and fans. He had been fighting without medical clearance, and it raises serious questions regarding the screening of fighters before entering the ring. 10. Scott Westgarth. Scott Westgarth was a young light heavyweight boxer who was making a name for himself in the sport. Born in 1986, he was a determined, hard-working, and passionate boxer. He was not flashy, but he had a steel heart, pushing himself to the limit to get a win. On February 26, 2018, he entered the ring for one of the largest bouts of his career against Dec Spellman. The fight was fierce, with both men throwing hard punches and not backing down. Westgarth was even knocked down late in the fight, but he rose to his feet, displaying the same toughness that had made him a crowd favorite. When the last bell sounded, the judges declared Westgarth the winner. It ought to have been a time of jubilation, but disaster befell him shortly afterwards. While returning to the changing rooms, Westgarth became ill. He was taken to Royal Hallamshire Hospital, where he was attempted to be saved by doctors. Unfortunately, he passed away the following day. 11. Becky Zerlentis. Becky Zerlentis was a professional boxer who became a historical figure for a tragic reason. She was the first woman to be killed in a sanctioned fight in the United States. Unlike other professional boxers, Zerlentis came from a different background. She was a college professor and was very interested in sports and competition. She boxed in martial arts and found her way into boxing, where she was a highly respected competitor. On April 2, 2005, Zerlentis participated in the Colorado State Boxing Senior Female Championships. She fought against Heather Schmitz in a hard-fought match. The match was close, but during the third round, Schmitz delivered a strong punch that knocked Zerlentis out. The audience was waiting for her to stand up again, as boxers do, but this time she never came to. She was rushed to the hospital by medics, but she passed away soon after. 12. Randy Carver. Randy Carver was a promising American boxer. Born in 1974, he worked tirelessly and battled his way through the ranks, gaining respect for his work ethic and ability. Carver boxed as a super middleweight, a division characterized by hard-punching boxers. His career was promising, and everyone thought he had what it took to be a boxing champion. On the 12th of September, 1999, Carver entered the ring for a bout against Kabari Salem. The fight happened in Kansas City, Missouri, and spectators were eager to see him fight. The fight was tough, with both men delivering heavy blows. As the rounds passed, however, Carver's pace slowed down. During the 10th round, something went amiss. Carver fell down in the ring and could not continue. The fight was immediately stopped by the referee, and medical personnel rushed over to assist him. He was hospitalized, where doctors found that he had sustained serious head trauma. All efforts were for naught, and Carver passed away 2 days later. His passing away was a shock to the boxing world, and everyone began questioning the safety of fighters. People wondered if he had absorbed too much punishment during the bout, and whether there were alternative methods to avoid such tragedies. 13. Johnny Owen. Johnny Owen was a Welsh boxer who had a slender build and an incredible heart. He was born in 1956 and grew up in Merthyr Tydfil, Wales. Owen began boxing at a young age, and although physically smaller than many of his rivals, compensated for this with determination, ability, and a fighting spirit that could not be beaten. Nicknamed the Matchstick Man due to his thin stature, Owen soon became a fan favorite. A bantamweight boxer, he fought in one of boxing's most thrilling weight classes. His tireless work ethic and capacity for withstanding punishment made him a threat in the ring. Owen won a title shot at the WBC Bantamweight Championship in 1980. He went to Los Angeles to meet Lupe Pintor, a tough and seasoned fighter. This was the biggest fight of Owen's career, and he was eager to bring the title home to Wales. The battle was savage. Owen fought with all his might, but Pintor's might was too strong. In round 12, Pintor delivered a brutal punch that put Owen on the canvas. He never rose. Medical personnel ran in, and Owen was hospitalized. He had sustained severe head injuries and was put into a coma. For weeks, physicians attempted to rescue him, but unfortunately, he passed away on November 4, 1980. 14. Pedro Alcazar. Pedro Alcazar was a talented Panamanian boxer who was characterized by his speed and the force of his punches. Born in 1975, he had a vision of becoming a world champion. Every day he trained, and soon enough he became one of the most potential fighters in the division of super flyweights. In 2001, Alcazar realized his dream when he won the WBO Super Flyweight Championship, and his nation was proud of him. He successfully defended his belt and was determined to continue rising in the boxing ranks. His fans loved his aggressive fighting style and the fact that he never backed down from a fight. On June 22, 2002, Alcazar fought Fernando Montiel, a hard-fighting Mexican. It was a vicious fight, and although Alcazar fought well, he lost by TKO in the 6th round. He appeared to be okay after the bout, even going to a press conference the following day. But tragedy struck 2 days after. In his hotel room in Las Vegas, Alcazar collapsed unexpectedly. He was taken to the hospital, where doctors found out that he had sustained a critical brain injury from the bout. In spite of their efforts, he passed away at the age of 26. 15. Benjamin Flores. Benjamin Flores was a tough, fearless Mexican featherweight boxer. He was born in 1984 and labored hard to become known in the sport. Flores was also famous for his constant pressure inside the ring. He moved forward incessantly, taking punches, but always counterattacking. On April 30, 2009, Flores battled Al Seeger for the NABF featherweight title. It was a hard-fought battle, with both men delivering big punches. Flores would not back down, displaying the heart of a warrior. But in the 8th round, something was amiss. Having been hit with a sequence of hard punches, Flores fell to the floor of the ring. The fight was immediately stopped by the referee, and medical personnel rushed to his side. He was promptly rushed to the hospital, where he was diagnosed to have suffered severe brain injuries. For 5 days, Flores struggled to stay alive in the hospital. His family members, his friends, and his fans wished for a miracle. Unfortunately, on May 5, 2009, at 25 years old, he passed away. 16. Hector Rojas. Hector Rojas was a committed and courageous boxer who spent years pursuing his dream. Like most fighters, he was aware of the dangers of the sport, but felt that his passion and ability could carry him to the top. He trained hard, fought his way up the ranks, and established himself as a tough opponent. In 2006, Rojas entered the ring for another fight, determined to do his best. He fought with heart and willpower, but once the fight was over, something was amiss. He suddenly collapsed, and chaos erupted in the arena. The medical team came to his aid and quickly took him to the hospital. Physicians soon found that he had experienced a brain hemorrhage, a situation where blood vessels in the brain rupture as a result of trauma. Even with the best medical care, Rojas did not make it. His passing away was a poignant reminder of how risky boxing can be, even for those fighters who appear to be tough and ready. His demise resulted in more debate over boxing safety, with many calling for improved medical screenings and quicker fight stoppages. But even with these safeguards, no one knows when something like this can occur. 17. Roman Simakov. Roman Simakov was a Russian boxer with the hopes of hitting it big. Born in 1984, he was famous for his aggressive style of fighting and his persistence of never giving up, despite how difficult the fight was becoming. Fans adored his never-give-up spirit, and he was one of the stars of the rising stars of Russian boxing. On December 5, 2011, Simakov boxed against Sergey Kovalev, a strong and experienced fighter. It was an eagerly awaited fight, and the two fighters were both determined to emerge victorious. Simakov went at it with all his might, absorbing powerful punches but refusing to fall. But toward the end of the battle, it was obvious that he was in trouble. He received numerous hard blows, and in the 7th round, fell flat on his back. The fight was immediately called off by the referee, and Simakov was removed from the ring on a stretcher. Doctors tried frantically to save him, but he had sustained serious brain injuries. He went into a coma and did not regain consciousness. 3 days later, on December 8, 2011, he passed away at the age of 27. His passing shook the boxing world, and his opponent, Sergey Kovalev, was especially moved. Kovalev would go on to dedicate some of his greatest victories to Simakov's memory, demonstrating how much respect fighters have for one another, even after facing each other in the ring. 18. Angelo Jacopucci. Angelo Jacopucci was an Italian boxer with a bright future ahead of him. Born in 1948, he was renowned for his ferocious fighting spirit and determination. He fought his way up through the ranks, establishing himself in the middleweight division. Supporters were impressed with his tenacity, and most thought that he would be a household name in the sport. His moment of truth arrived on June 19, 1978, when he fought Jean-Marc Mormec for the European middleweight crown. It was his opportunity to become a champion, and he gave everything in the fight. But life is full of surprises, and on this evening, Jacopucci absorbed plenty of hard shots. Despite him having completed the fight, his body had received serious damage. He collapsed only moments after getting out of the ring. Medics came over to assist him, and he was rushed off to a hospital. The doctors found that he had received major brain trauma as a result of the punches taken. All measures were taken to save him, but he passed away a day later. 19. Daniel Aguillon. Daniel Aguillon was a Mexican featherweight fighter who dreamed of being a world champion. He was young, talented, and fearless, always leaving it all in the ring. Aguillon had a solid career, and his opponents and fans looked up to him. He understood that with each fight, he was inching closer to becoming a boxing legend. On October 15, 2008, Aguillon entered the ring to battle Alejandro Sanabria. It was a crucial fight for him, and he gave it his all. But in the 12th round, he received a vicious punch to the head. The blow was crushing. Aguillon fell to the ground instantly, and the bout was halted. Medical staff came to his aid, attempting to resuscitate him. He was rushed to the hospital, but the damage was already done. Aguillon had incurred serious brain damage, and the doctors were unable to save him as he passed away a few days later. He was just 24 years old, and his entire career was ahead of him. His demise hit the boxing world hard, with debates arising about how to improve the safety of fights without diminishing the sport's essence. 20. Ed Sanders. Ed Sanders was a brilliant heavyweight boxer who was celebrated for his strength and grit. Born in 1930, he made history when he won the gold medal in boxing during the 1952 Helsinki Olympics. His great show catapulted him to stardom, and his colleagues thought that he possessed all the qualities to be a world champion. Following his Olympic triumph, Sanders went professional with the ambition to dominate the heavyweight division. He possessed all the attributes of a champion: power, finesse, and an unrelenting will. However, boxing is a violent sport, and in one bout, everything changed. Sanders entered the ring on December 12, 1954, to square off against Willie James in a high-stakes match. Both of these men were tough fighters, but the bout turned vicious when Sanders received serious head injury. He fell to the ground in the ring and was rushed to the hospital without delay. Even with medical intervention, he passed away later in the night as a result of a lethal brain injury. His passing away was a heartbreaking loss for the sport of boxing, and it raised questions about the safety of fighters. Although his life was tragically short, Sanders' legacy as a fighter who devoted everything to the sport he cherished will live on. His Olympic win is still an evidence to his skill and commitment, so he will never be forgotten as a boxer. Boxing is a sport of determination, skill, and strength, but also a sport that is fraught with peril. Numerous gifted fighters over the years have passed away in the ring under circumstances that are far from pleasant. From Olympic gold medalist Ed Sanders, who received a mortal brain injury, to boxers such as Maxim Dadashev, Patrick Day, and Johnny Owen, who left it all on the ring floor for the sport they cherished. These fatalities remind us of the risks associated with boxing. All of these boxers entered the ring hoping for a victory, but the universe had different plans. While some fainted after the match, others sustained catastrophic injuries in the middle of the game, and a few, such as Boris Stanchov, entered the ring using fake names, resulting in ghastly tragedies. Their stories have raised valuable discussions regarding boxer safety and medical protocols in the sport of boxing.